Ernie, good morning. How are you?
Dan, if I were doing any better, I'd be jealous of myself.
How would you sum up?
I stole that from somebody. You can use it at your leisure if you wish.
Sounds like a Will Ferrell line there.
No, it was no. That predates Will Ferrell.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm doing great. I'm back in Atlanta here after a long night at the ball yard.
How would you sum that up if somebody didn't see what happened last night? Could you sum that up?
Man, I wish I had the word for it. It was wacky. It was unpredictable. It was just, it was one of those. It's been such a low-scoring, tight game series, and this was a tight game too. But I mean, the Cubs scored more runs in Game 5 than they had in the first 4 games, and and you had the whole thing with Max Scherzer coming out of the pen, and catcher's interference. The replay on the throwback by Contreras, it was crazy, and the swing of 4-1 Washington to 8-4 Chicago, and then the Cubs hanging on. It was just what we expected. It was going to be a great series when we looked at those and said, you know what, that's going to be the best one of the bunch, and boy, it lived up to it.
But the pass ball. Were you, Ron Darling, aware of exactly what happened and what was reviewable and not reviewable?
Yeah, with and you look at the rule book with what and that's the umpire's discretion on the backswing making contact with the catcher. But the thing is, when that happened, immediately Wieters went to the backstop, so it wasn't like one of these things where he got hit flush and dropped to his knees and was dazed and that kind of a deal. And Hal Galima, our stat guy, had the rule book out and was talking and kept saying it's umpire's discretion. So that was the deal.
What about the pickoff throw at first? And it's a little strange to see the umpires waiting for New York to get back to them to say out or safe.
Well, here's my thinking on that on that replay. And one thing that I have an issue with, a lot of those plays where somebody's stealing base, stealing second, or trying to take the extra base, and you have that play, and you hold the tag on a runner on the chance that possibly he comes off the bag just a hair. Look, I think there sometimes has to be. There's a place to use the super slow-mo. Was that ball fair or foul home run? Did it go around the pole or in front of the pole, and you get every possible look because you can't get a close look at it? Sometimes I think on a play like that last night, you can use replay, but it's got to be regular speed. What should the umpire be expected to see in that case? And if you run that back in regular speed and say, oh, geez, I mean, yeah, he could have been out, he could have been safe, and I'll stick with the call. I mean, sometimes what do you expect an umpire to do? They don't have this kind of vision that slows things down to super slow-mo. You expect him to see that? No. And so I think sometimes it's overused, and sometimes it's, what you saw last night was just that fraction of an inch, and it was a huge play in the game.
Wait, so you think there's certain plays where you use super slow-mo and certain plays where you do just regular instant replay?
Yeah, because where an umpire is right there, this is what he was able to see. That I think if there's a dispute right there, you say, okay, let's run it. Okay, run it back in full speed. Okay. Could you make that call? What do you expect this umpire to see? And I think in places like that, in calls like that, when you come up, and it's not just last night's call, we see it all the time when somebody doesn't really overslide the bag or something like that, but his thigh comes off the bag for a second just before his foot maintains contact with it. And how do you expect any umpire to make that right call?
Well,
So sometimes I think, on a call like that, sure, you want to replay that, look at it full speed. Boom.
But I've had people say, well, in the spirit of the game, that you shouldn't call him out. And I go, wait, now we're in the spirit of the game. I got unwritten rules in the spirit of the game. But remember
I know where are you supposed to go with those? I mean, because when they're unwritten rules of the game, man, you write your own.
Talking to
and so
Ernie's going to have Wait, let me reintroduce you, and then you can go. Ernie, come on, Ernie. I talked to you about you being the most selfless announcer, and then here you are wanting to get more airtime. All right, so slow down. He's Ernie Johnson, 3-time Sports Emmy winner, one of the most selfless broadcasters in the business, apparently until this appearance. Dodgers Cubs at 8 Eastern. You got the call in Game 1. All right, and as you were saying, Ernie.
I don't have the call in Game 1.
Well, the Dodgers Cubs is 8 Eastern and on Game 1.
Yes.
Yeah, the coverage.
CBS has the
coverage.
CBS has the call. Yeah. Brian Anderson will be doing it.
And Ernie will have Tuesday night, opening night of the NBA.
Yeah, I'm moving over to the NBA. So I'm almost afraid to talk now because I feel like I've infringed on some sacred ground here, Dan.
What did you make of Michael Jordan's quote that the NBA has 28 garbage teams? 2 great teams, 28 garbage teams.
You're going to have to forgive me. When did he say that? He
was quoted yesterday. I think he's an interview in Cigar Aficionado. So he's talking about super teams and how he's against these super teams. And you have Cleveland and you have Golden State. But wasn't Chicago a super team? Although they didn't assemble their team the same way Golden State did. But the Bulls were a super team when they played. They were the best team in basketball by far.
Yeah, without question, they were. And no, I don't think that I'm very hesitant to label 28 teams garbage teams. I think league-wide you've got guys who are worth watching, and I think you have a few teams that can contend. But, I mean, I think the point he's trying to make, and the point that I would agree on, is that if Golden State trots out that same bunch every night, nobody can beat them 4 times.
But I looked at Cleveland.
Nobody. I mean, and I hate to take the drama out of the season, but a lot of things can happen in the course of a season, and so we'll see. But I mean, if you draw it up the way it is right now, you think there's a team out there that beats Golden State 4 times? No. If this were March Madness, yeah, maybe everybody has a bad shooting night and somebody gets in foul trouble and they lose a game, but to beat that team 4 times, nobody has the personnel to do that.
But don't we want the 2 best teams to face one another normally? Whenever playing for a championship. So Golden State against Cleveland are the 2 best teams. And Cleveland didn't assemble their team like a super team. This really is based on Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant has said, look, am I the reason why Orlando didn't make the playoffs? Don't blame me for all the ills, everything bad with the NBA. I went to Golden State. Somehow, Atlanta's not any good. We're going to blame it on Kevin Durant. So I understand what he's saying. But if you say Cleveland and Golden State play again, I'm fine with that.
Sure. I mean, that's the way this plays out. And again, there's never a guarantee that, and you don't wish any injury on anybody, obviously. But yeah, I mean, this is the way this thing is played. The best of the East meets the best of the West, and let's so let's do it and see if maybe something unpredictable can happen. But I mean, on paper, you look at it, and Golden State's the prohibitive favorite in the NBA. So, is that a bad thing? I don't know. I used to love watching Tiger Woods play when he was dominating, just to see how good he could play. I don't have a problem watching excellence in any sport. And I'm not going to turn it off. You go, that's just Golden State, who plays great team basketball and plays on both ends of the floor. I don't want to see that. Sure, you do. And so I don't think that's a bad thing. I think sometimes you just have to appreciate the fact that you're seeing, back in his day, Michael Jordan play. Are the Bulls going to win the title this year? Sure, they are. Yeah. Are you going to turn it off? No, I'm going to watch. Of course I am.
Dodgers Cubs 8 Eastern, but Ernie doesn't have that tomorrow. He doesn't have that call. He's going to be getting ready for Tuesday night, the opening night of the NBA, and their coverage begins on TNT at 8 Eastern. Celtics Cavs. Boy, that should be a friendly affair. And then it'll be the Warriors and the Rockets, and you'll try to separate Shaq and Barkley. Kenny pretty much plays neutral, right? Or does he? No.
He doesn't.
He doesn't stir it. Does he stir it up? Stir it up and then let the 2 big guys come in?
Yeah, but he's not really being neutral. If you're going to stir it up, then you're leaning one way or the other. So it's not exactly Switzerland. And there are times when that's the last thing I need. I said there are times where I feel like I've kind of got the show somewhat under control, and then I'll get Shaq saying, "Hey, Charles, how do you think about those women in San Antonio?" That's his favorite place to go, because he knows Charles will go on this rant that he's been doing for 6 years. And yeah, Kenny's the same way. He's just, Kenny will just say, "Hey, Charles, Shaq was saying," and Shaq had never said it. So yeah, there are. I'm trying to kind of keep the show afloat as best I can, but there are certain factors working against me from time to time.
Ernie, thanks for joining us as always. I'm sorry if I barked at you a little bit there. I didn't mean to. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry I overstepped my bounds. I just, I feel so bad, Dan, that I may have thrown the rhythm of the show off somewhat, or
I'm going to survive. I'm going to survive because that's what I do. I mean,
I know Reggie Miller never does that to you, does
he? No. And Reg joins us on Tuesday, by the way, as we get ready for the opening night. Ernie, thanks. Enjoyed listening to the game. Thank you.
Hey, have a wonderful weekend, Dan. Always good talking to you.
Thank you. That's the selfless Ernie Johnson inside the NBA. 3-time Sports Emmy winner. Had the call last night, but he doesn't have the call. Dodgers and the Cubs. That'll be tomorrow night, 8 Eastern.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.